Hello, I'm Helen from Journal with Purpose and welcome to my latest YouTube video. Today I've got some news that I'm just so excited to share with you. It's a little project that I've been working on for quite a few months now, and I'm just so pleased to let you know that in my shop I've just now released a set of printable Journal with Purpose prompt cards. I've had this idea in mind for so long. If you're anything like me, there can be times when you sit down to journal, but you feel a little bit stuck, perhaps, of things that you want to write about. And you maybe find that you're writing lots of the same things in your journal. It can be a bit repetitive. Or maybe you're looking for some creative inspiration. And these prompt cards are broken into two categories. So there are some writing prompts and some creative prompts. And I've just loved designing them. I'm really hoping that they'll be helpful for you when you're sitting down to journal. And so they are a printable rather than a physical product. So immediately after purchase, you'll have instant access to them. And in this video, I'm going to share with you everything that's included in this printable and also how I made each of the journal cards that are in here and the box. Everything that you need is in that printable bundle. And I'm also going to talk you through a little bit about how I plan to use these prompt cards myself. Well, I really hope you like them and I hope you enjoy the video too. Okay, to start off, I want to share everything that's included in the bundle. So you'll have the printables to make the box, which you've got a top and a bottom. And you will then have the backing papers for your prompt cards. So these are split into writing prompts and creative prompts. And there are 40 prompt cards included. So these are all the different ones. So I'll start off with the creative prompts. I just had so much fun designing all of these. They were all hand painted and then scanned in, and just the whole thing was a joy. And I also can't wait to start using these in my journals. So I will film some demonstrations for YouTube. But what I'm planning on doing is probably picking one creative prompt card at random. Two creative prompt cards at random and one writing prompt card. So anytime I'm feeling a little bit stuck or want some inspiration, that's what I'm going to do. Sometimes I might just pick one creative and one writing, but I think it's quite fun when you have to combine a couple of the creative prompts together. So that is now all of the creative prompt cards, and we then move on to the writing ones. And you can interpret these in any way you like. I think it's a really good way to get you thinking, and perhaps if you often journal about the same sorts of things and you feel that perhaps your journal pages are getting a bit repetitive, then I'm hoping some of these will just give you a little nudge to think about some different types of things that you could write about and reflect on in your journal pages. So nearly now at the end of those. So that's everything that's included in the bundle, and I thought it might be helpful in this video to share with you how I made the journal prompt cards, what materials I used, and also how to make the box. So in the bundle there is a little description, but that will link you to this video anyway, so just that you get a really good feel for how you can make all of these. So with the journal prompt cards, there are 4 per sheet of paper. So as there's 40 prompt cards you'll need to print, there'll be 10 sheets of these in total. So this is an example of one of the creative sheets, and this is one of the writing prompts. You will then get these behind it, which are your backing papers for the creative prompts and writing prompts. So you'll need to print out 5 sheets of this and 5 sheets of this one. And you will also then need to print your box bottom and your box top. Now, one thing that's important to mention is that when you print your cards, whatever print margin you select for printing the fronts of your cards needs to be exactly the same for the back of the cards and for when printing the top and bottom of your box. And that will make sure that everything fits well together. I actually picked a 0 print margin on all sides of when I was printing these off. For printing, I used some HP Colour Choice paper, and this is 100 GSM. And when I'm printing my printables, any of my sets of printables, I nearly always use this type of paper. I do find that the slightly thicker paper than your regular print paper and ones that are designed for colour just give a brighter effect when you're printing. And I will be mounting all of my paper onto cardstock, and I think I just went really for what was ever the cheapest on Amazon. This is by Prestige Crafts, but it's just white cardstock, and I've gone for the 250 GSM, and I found that that gave me a nice thickness to my cards. So we'll start off making a set of journal prompt cards, and I'm going to pick one of the creative ones, and you should be able to quickly identify which is which from almost how many words there are on there. Are they asking you a question, or is it just a creative prompt? So I'm going to move these to one side and make sure that I've got the creative prompts backing paper ready. And the first thing I'm going to do is just glue this onto my white cardstock, and for this I'm going to be using Pritt Stick. Some sort of glue stick is often best for this sort of thing, so that you don't have kind of bubbles or any issues that a wetter glue can use, but you probably would get on fine with PVA or any glue stick that holds well. So I'm just putting glue all over the card. And then I'm going to place this on top, and I'm trying to get it as neat as possible on that cardstock because we're going to be putting the backing papers on the back. And I'm just going to use a bone folding tool to try and get those as flat as possible on the piece of card. But you could just rub the edge of some scissors or something like that over it, anything really, just to try and get it as flat as possible. And then on the other side I'm going to glue down the creative prompts backing paper, and you just want to make sure that they're the same way up as your prompt cards on the other side. So again, just running that glue all over the card. Once you've cut them up, if you've got some loose corners, you can always glue those down then. And I can see I slightly misaligned that bottom piece of paper, so I'm actually going to try and line this up with where I got the bottom sheet. Nothing goes right to the edges of these cards anyway, not quite, so if you need to just cut into them a little bit to make sure that you've got them nice and neat, that's going to be fine. That's not going to cause you any problems at all. Okay, so we're now going to cut the 4 cards out. I'm going to use a pair of scissors, but if you've got a paper trimmer or something like that, that would be fine. And as long as we've used the same print margins when we've printed the front and the back of the cards, these should line up really nicely, and also if you've glued them in the right place. So if I turn that over, you can see it's taken it to the top of that card as well. When I made them, I did have a couple which were slightly misaligned, so I just tidied those up with a pair of scissors afterwards. So again, you can see it's gone along the black line on the other side as well. So that is now nice and neatly cut out. I can see I've obviously got some places here where I didn't glue very well, so I'm just going to add some extra glue at this stage. It's really just worth checking the corners. So if I just do one more of these to give you a good feel for how I made them, and you just do then exactly the same process with the writing prompts, but use the writing prompts backing paper on those instead. So they've come out really neat. I have just got a little bit of the black line showing on this side, so I'm just going to use my scissors to tidy that up a little bit. And you would have then, of course, finish off and do the same with those prompt cards as well. And you can leave them just like this, but I really like having some rounded corners. So I've got this corner punch, and I'm just going to press down firmly on all four corners just to round those off. And if I remember, I'll leave a link to this corner punch down below. But I sat and made these up, I think one evening whilst watching television, and I actually found it quite a nice relaxing project to do, just sitting printing all of these out. And then just trimming off all the corners and cutting them and gluing them. And it's a set then that hopefully I'll be able to use for many years to come. Okay, so that is the journal prompt cards created. And what I'm now going to do is glue down the box top and the box bottom onto some cardstock and then just cut those out. So they're now both cut out, and it's worth just checking if you've got any loose little bits you need to glue down. And your journal card bottom should be just slightly smaller than the lid. So now we're going to start making the bottom of the box, and I'm going to be using a bone folding tool for this, but again, absolutely fine if you just want to use scissors or something like that. So I'm going to turn it over and fold along just to where your first little cut out triangle piece is, and try and make sure that these edges are flat with each other. And then I'm going to run that bone folding tool all along the side there. I did think about putting some actual fold lines on here, but I just thought if you just ever so slightly misfold it, you're going to see that black line either on the top or the bottom. So I'm hoping that it should be fairly obvious that you're kind of folding from point to point. And again, as I mentioned earlier, really important to make sure that you've printed with the same print margins for your box as you did for your cards. Okay, so I'm now going to open that up and fold these edges down. And then do the same with the little flaps. And if the first time you make the box it doesn't work out quite how you wanted, remember you can always print these again. The same with any of the cards. That's one of the things I do like about printables, is that if you manage to spill something on one of them or something doesn't turn out quite how you wanted, you can just print the pages that you need again. certainly makes it a little bit more challenging folding it with cardstock rather than just with paper, but it's certainly going to make them a little bit more robust. And now before you go any further, what I would do at this stage is just check that the cards that you've made are fitting inside that box area, just in case you need to reprint them, and check your print margins. So I'm now going to add some glue on these little flaps that are folded down here. And I'm going to bring those inside as I fold that up. I'm just going to hold those for a couple of seconds to make sure that they're nice and secure. And then I'm going to do the same with this side as well. Okay, and again just holding those in place, and you should find that that box is exactly the right height to hold all of the 40 prompt cards in there. I did have in mind actually doing more prompt cards, but if I'd made the box any bigger you wouldn't have been able to print it out on one sheet of paper. So now that I've got the box bottom done, again just going to check those cards are fitting nicely, and I'm going to do exactly the same with the top. Okay, that's now everything made, and assuming that it's all been printed out okay and you folded them okay, you should find that fits nice and snugly on top of the bottom part of your box. And the only finishing touch that I like to do, which is definitely optional, is I've got this circle punch, and I'm just going to move it up so that I get a little kind of half circle or part circle on the edge of those. I just find it helps for lifting the lid on and off, but as I said, definitely not essential, but it just helps a little bit. I did the same with this one here. So that is how they're all made. I hoped they were kind of clear from the instructions, but I definitely wanted to just film a quick tutorial to make sure that you know how to get started with them. And as I mentioned, when I'm using them for journaling, what I think I'll do is just pick a writing prompt at random and maybe a couple of creative prompts. With these, if you turn over a creative prompt that you don't like, and the same with the writing prompt, you could always substitute them for something else. So say for example it said watercolour and you don't have any, you could use acrylic paint, pencils, brush pens, anything you like. So my writing prompt for this session would be, how do you feel right now? And I'm going to use some doodle patterns and some jelly plate printing. Again, if you don't have jelly plate printing, you could use patterned papers, anything you like. I do have them, so that would be a really nice journaling session to do. So I really hope you've enjoyed this. I hope you're as excited as I am. I just had so much fun putting these together. I thought about some of my favourite creative things to do, and also some of the creative things that I don't think I do nearly often enough, so they're in there. And I also looked back through some of my journal pages to see which ones brought me the most joy, and I looked at what I was writing about and what kind of creative techniques I was using during that session. And I've tried to put all of that into these journal prompt cards, though it is safe to say I've got enough idea to do tons of these sets if they're popular enough. I'll of course leave a link for these journal prompt cards down below. If you're a member of my Patreon VIP tier, please remember that you've already got access to these as a bonus printable. If you're interested in joining me on Patreon and you join on that VIP tier, you'd also get access. So I'll leave a link down to those below. But I just really hope you've enjoyed seeing these. Thank you ever so much for watching, and I look forward to speaking with you really soon in my next video.